Hello, Eugene Aiello here. Thank you for watching another one of my patient education video series. This is a video I like to do whenever I have discussions with my patients. This is a discussion I hope to have around my third, fourth visit. And most of the time patients are I never knew about any of this. It's the business of healthcare. We should call it the business of disease care. The pharmaceutical industry, the allopathic industry, went through quite a few changes that, if you understand the history of it, you see that a business model was created from this whole system. So I'm going to take you back to when it first started in the early 1900s, when science really began advancing. We started understanding chemistry a little bit more. They were just understanding electricity. John D. Rockefeller, very wealthy in the oil industry, didn't make all his money in oil though. He ended up making quite a bit of money in the petrochemical industry. He understood that oil could be used for more things than just gasoline. You could make plastics, you could make different beauty products out of it. The more that they started understanding organic chemistry, they started realizing you can make organic molecules, which eventually led to the pharmaceutical industry. That still goes down the road too, petrochemical industry. That entails beauty, self-care, cleaning supplies, agricultural chemicals, food additives, which is going to be very important to discuss. But anyway, with that opportunity he was seeing to make money, he teamed up with Andrew Carnegie, steel giant. The Carnegie Foundation was a non-for-profit organization, and they decided to employ Abraham Flexner. Abraham Flexner was an educator. He had opened his own private school. He had very progressive views on educational curriculums and how they should advance. And his views were actually pretty good. He wanted more of a system of hands-on approach to education versus just memorization, which is kind of funny because that's what ended up happening was the field of memorization. So they asked him to reform the medical school system in the US and Canada. They wanted him to go to each individual medical school and observe how each classroom was being taught and what recommendations he had. He came out with the Flexner Report in 1910. I would assume that Flexner Report was not just his work, but obviously his funders had a purpose behind the Flexner Report. That Flexner Report standardized all medical school education systems into one model. The AMA made it so that schools had to be accredited to be medical schools. This produced the science-based system, which all sounds really good actually, because it doesn't make sense. You want all healthcare schools to be based off the same scientific model, that same understanding, get the woo-woo, as I say in my profession, out of there, and get hard science behind any treatment or any evaluation method of diagnosis. All instructors in this new system of these medical schools had to be full-time. These were full-time jobs and they were dedicated to teaching and research. They were researching the biochemistry of science. And as I wrote here, it sounds really good, doesn't it? But it was very expensive. It closed 75% of medical schools. Only universities could handle this. They needed the money. And if you follow my money trains around, that money from the Carnegie Foundation and Rockefeller, those are the very first big pockets that were digging in deep to fund these schools. So these schools were pretty much teaching the curriculum that this entrepreneur up here with the petrochemical industry wanted them teaching. This pretty much wiped out most alternative medical schools. They did not want healing to be taught by acupuncture, electrical types of devices, photonic, even light therapy was part of healing, homeopathy, nutrition. The only nutrition that was going to be taught was a nutritional model based off the science born, which, as we know from the food pyramids, goes all the way back to our agricultural industry, but I won't go there. The criteria to validate claims attainable without big money was impossible. So anybody researching alternative medicine, homeopathy, and they had to go through this new rigorous science-based system to explain it, they could not put together the research to validate their claims. They couldn't compete with the big business that just started. So medical schools pretty much had produced a monopoly on the healthcare system. I put my little thing out here because we say healthcare system, but nothing about the current allopathic system is really teaching people how to take care of their bodies to avoid disease. They're waiting until you present to their office with the disease. So chemical models of biology were taught in these curriculums, and I think I touched upon that. I might not have in my first two videos. I know in my biophotonics series I touch on it a lot, that basically biology had been limited to chemical reactions. When you're in school, in medical school, you're learning all these different physiology, cell biology, all the chemical reactions and the processes that occur and how the cell functions, how it breaks things down, how it makes things. Nothing else was taken into account with this system, meaning a chemical went from an enzyme metabolizing it to this part. Nothing describes how those enzymes work. Nothing took it down to the quantum level of how this actually works, because they really didn't care. Their view was to look at those chemical processes and look at ways that they could add synthetic chemicals to alter those processes, either stopping them, facilitate them. Quite the mess, if you think about it, the model that they're trying to produce. Because at the same time, all this biochemistry that was developing, they're rapidly learning about how cells have these metabolic pathways, but they have absolutely no understanding of why the cells are doing what they're doing and what's behind driving these processes. Another big topic, like I said, my biophotonics series, electromagnetic energy within the body, what the Chinese discuss as qi, is integral into this whole process. But in this biochemical model, they take none of that into account. I don't think I might review it in this series, but again, in my other series, we get into picking apart some of these models, and they're actually flawed, meaning as you're looking at these models, they don't even make sense. And the term irreducibly complex has to keep coming up. When they couldn't figure out how things were happening because they were ignoring the most important aspect of electromagnetic energy, the biophotonic system, they just kept on making more steps and more complexity to try and explain their models. I make the analogy, it's kind of like when your child is lying to you and it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and more complex, and it ends up it's just someone else, that it is someone else's fault. But anyway, I'm going to keep going here. So chemical products only produced by patents were now the new healthcare delivery system. So they created a product and made a lot of money off it, and you are the consumer. You are the one paying these high insurance premiums to afford being part of the system. It's so expensive because of all the money thrown into it that it's unattainable for someone just to pay cash for their own healthcare anymore. So the products they produce are drugs, which are approved by the FDA. Synthetic vitamins, by the way. Everybody thinks that going to their alternative doctor and taking a vitamin and all these things is alternative medicine and natural. By far not. I do not recommend anybody take synthetic vitamins. Whole foods, you should be eating healthy to get your vitamins, not popping pills. It's the same model, and it frustrated me when I was in chiropractic school and they started pushing this on us. It didn't make a lot of sense. They're in my alternative training, they were very good about pointing out the flaws of this model. But then the same token, I'd have nutrition classes where they kept on talking about supplementation of vitamins. I'm kind of sitting there going, wait a minute, that's still a pill, it's synthetic, it's not natural. So many people think that when they're taking a vitamin C, for instance, that ascorbic acid is a natural thing. It's not. It goes all the way back over to here. So they're using organic compounds, petrochemicals, to modify the structure to create compounds that resemble organic compounds. They're not natural. Natural vitamin C is going to come from food. So in 1935, they actually figured out how to make a synthetic version of vitamin C. So going back, since I mentioned the FDA is also regulating our foods. So when you get into this area of the petrochemical industry, all of these different things are making us sick. So they're making us ill with the food additives, the agricultural products, all the chemicals they're putting on our food, the genetic modification, the things we put on our bodies are even making us sick. The plastic bottles that we're drinking it out of and our foods are packaged in are all making us sick. Well, they approve all these things through the FDA because 9 out of 10 of FDA commissioners move on to work for the pharmaceutical companies. So in the last 4 decades, only one person that was a commissioner of the FDA actually went out and did something different. That gentleman actually went into education, which was pretty great. So when you get sicker from all these terrible things, you're just going to have to need their product again. So I guess I was kind of grim in my little demonstration here explaining the medical model and how it was founded, but I'm going to explain the solution to it. The key is to stay out of the system. The key is to not take these synthetic vitamins and drugs, only in emergency situations, and I'm going to back that up. When I do this long, drawn-out business model, I'm not knocking at all emergency medicine. If I break my leg, I'm definitely going to an allopathic doctor. If I, have a major issue like a strep infection, yes, an antibiotic is going to be the solution. But you want to do everything you can to avoid these situations. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, the surgical realm is amazing. You need a hip replacement, your hip is completely shot. Amazing what medical professionals can do. What I'm talking about is your primary care physician that's telling you got high cholesterol and you need to buy that product. Or your children are going to the pediatrician visits and they need a vaccination. So you want to stay away from all of it, okay? So I'm going to give the solution. I'm not going to be so grim. I'm going to erase this board and we're going to go to the next part of the video. Okay, it's going to sound pretty simple, but I'm going to go over it because it's necessary. The biggest one is going to be food. What you put in your mouth. You don't want to put things in your mouth if you can't pronounce it. It's very simple. You look at the ingredients of anything you're going to eat. You want to see things that are real. You want to see potato. You want to see salt. You don't want to see sodium benzenate. You don't want to see vitamin C added for freshness. You know, that's not a good thing. Or hydrolyzed yeast extract. Well, it sounds good, doesn't it? Not good. Natural flavor. So deceiving. Natural flavor just means it can come from anything. Oil is natural. Excretions from a beaver's rectum gland, it's scent glands in the rectum, those are natural. And what they're doing is taking things that are natural and they're chemically modifying them. They're making it so that your taste, that you're only preferring those really, really good tasting foods. It goes into, they're not stupid in the food industry. They're giving you things that taste better than real food, that better than the sweetness of fruit, better than the fat that you get from animal meat. So it's addictive. It's a dopamine response. So when you're consuming a lot of these chemically modified things, they're doing it on purpose. They want you to want their product. They want you to crave those different artificial flavorings. So you keep coming back and you keep spending money. And our good old FDA says it's okay to throw that in there. It doesn't kill you in 2 years. Well, it's going to catch up with you in time with obesity and all the different carcinogenicity of these different products. When I talk about what you put in your mouth, you should also think about it, anything you put on your skin, would you put it in your mouth? Because your skin's going to absorb anything you put on you. The most common soaps out there are sodium lauryl sulfate. Where does that come from? Petrochemicals. So ingredients on your foods, ingredients on anything you put on yourself. You really want to pay attention to these things because they are absorbing into your system. You want to go to a basic diet, and patients are always asking me, what do you think of carnivore, vegetarian, pescatarian? I think that everybody does better on a different diet. You need to figure out what it is, but prioritize that it's clean, all natural. And in the long run, when you get used to eating that way, you're going to prefer it. You're going to find it's not that hard to prep. The preparation time is not that hard once you understand how to cook different foods. And I'll be making videos in our own kitchen eventually here, just showing basic, simple things like making a sourdough bread loaf, things like that. Buying bread, you can't buy bread at the store that doesn't have a whole bunch of junk in it. I bought a loaf of bread at Publix, and on the ingredients list, it had a warning on there that this product contains genetically modified organisms or foods, or however they phrased it. And I'm just looking at this going, oh, geez. Anyway, exercise. Exercise, you want to get at least an hour of cardiovascular a day. That could be walking for some people, depending on your level. Anything that gets you out and moving. Most people are sitting at their job all day. They're not getting enough activity. They're getting tired because they're exhausting their brain all day and interacting, but they're not getting that physical activity. Stretching. I was guilty of this for years. Stretching is huge. When your body doesn't get stretched and move like it's supposed to, it stiffens. As a chiropractor, this is very important to me because we're getting spinal joints moving. Flexibility is very important for normal movement. It makes that cardio a heck of a lot easier. Sleep. 8 hours a day. Only thing I want to add there is chemical free. I know a lot of people are getting involved with these melatonin supplements and relaxation supplements. You need to figure out how to get sleep naturally, which means going to bed at a regular time, waking up at a regular time. Doing activities before bed that are conducive to sleep, such as reading. Not watching some crime drama on TV or the news that's going to get you all worked up and have bad thoughts the whole night anyway when you're sleeping. You want to do a very calming atmosphere at the end of your day. Mental well-being. The toughest subject, because even I'm not perfect with my own mental well-being. It's the coordination of job, life, and spirit, meaning we all have jobs. Even if you're staying at home with children as a mom, that's still a job. You have to have a perspective of that job that you enjoy it. If it's a job you cannot enjoy in any way, it might be time to change. It might be a time to reevaluate how you're spending your money. A lot of us are spending money in the ways we shouldn't, and we're overly committed to our debts. You need to figure out in your life how you can fit a lifestyle in that you can afford with a job you enjoy. Great advice, I know, hard to do. It affects your health. If you're not enjoying your job, you're there 8-9 hours a day, that's tearing at your stress level. Life, same thing. Expectations of what your life is. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people spend their day going to work, coming home and sitting in front of a TV, and that's all they know. You need to start finding things you enjoy in your life, a reason, a purpose, volunteering. If you're a parent, your purpose is your children, spend time with them. Getting sucked into the TV and the phone, that's just, it's not a purpose in life, it's a distraction. And they do this to us on purpose. Remember I mentioned earlier, it's a big business. On TV, they're trying to get us to want that Papa John's pizza. They're trying to want you to buy those clothes. The social media, it's a dopamine response to sit on that thing, and they're advertising to us, they're marketing to us. You're a consumer. You don't want to be a consumer, you want to live your life. Spirit, that goes along with the whole concept of a purpose in life. There's a reason all of us are here. You have to find your spirituality and your piece of that. You have a purpose. You're not just here to work at a job and raising children's a purpose, but your basic daily routines is not your purpose. There's something you're supposed to be contributing to this world. And for parents, it's very simple. It's your children. You're passing on everything you know to them. You're forwarding them to the next step. So mental well-being is a very huge part of this whole system. Now, when people get ill, people are not very aware of their body. It's kind of sad to say that we go through all this schooling and public schooling and they do not teach us how our body works. How many people know what their spleen does, for instance? It seems like it should be common sense. But when I say awareness, pay attention to your body. If you're having a discomfort over in your stomach over here, something's wrong. Something's wrong with your GI tract. Most people don't have enough knowledge, so I would start by seeking a good holistic practitioner. I wouldn't go to that medical system, because if you go in with your stomach hurting, I can guarantee you, they're going to give you an acid blocker, they're going to give you an antibiotic. If they think it's your anxiety, they're going to give you a medication for your anxiety or depression. That is not the starting point for why your stomach hurts. You want to get to someone that's going to evaluate your situation and give you your dietary modifications if you're not following them. All the things I just talked about are going to be addressed first. If you go to someone who starts issuing you a whole bunch of supplements, I would stay away. People that are really good with homeopathy and herbs, yes, very good. I don't like the synthetic chemicals, though, being added. So someone that's giving good products herbally, definitely want to go that route. But you have to be aware, and you have to go get help before things get out of hand. So many stories I hear, like when someone is diagnosed with cancer, that's the first question I ask is, what was the symptom? And they tell me, and I go, well, how long was that going on? Well, on and off for a stretch. And then when it got real bad one day, I went to the doctor, and it's like, you have to have an awareness. When something's not feeling right, you have to consult help with a qualified practitioner that knows what those feelings that you're aware of actually could mean and help you. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Hopefully it was insightful for some people. A lot of people it was a review, but I feel like I have to talk about it. I don't usually get the full time with my patients to get through all of this stuff. If you have questions, I always take emails and texts. So thank you for your time.